What's going on, y'all? It's Lucius with another video blog. I have a special guest today. Her name is Liz Liptan, and she is an amazing astrologer. I've had a few readings with Liz and stuff, so we're going to be talking about America's natal chart and how there is some karma that is coming into play with America. And I personally believe that it's kind of starting this year in 2020. So, Liz, what's your knowledge on just looking into America's natal chart and what have you discovered with this?
Well, thank you for having me here. First of all,
yeah,
I'm honored to be present and speaking with you and the folks that are following along your platform. So,
yeah,
part of what was coming up for me when I first started looking at it, when you proposed the idea that we take a look at the chart for the US of A for 4th of July, is
right.
that I was feeling disgusted. I started looking at it and I was like, this chart is disgusting.
Yeah.
This vibe is disgusting. The United States is disgusting. But then I continued with that and looked at what felt sort of unresolved. And to me, everything comes through sentience first as a feeling before it makes an impact for me intellectually, right? So I'm just feeling icky, heavy, guilty, ashamed, I don't have enough. I can't get enough of anything ever. I'm like a bottomless pit. And that was the vibration that I was tapping into. So I was meeting the United States with the vibe of the United States, if that makes sense. Once I stepped into it, I was it. So it was ugly. And I was feeling some ugliness. I was feeling resentful and confused and guilty. But I think that is in the chart, that's some of the big lessons for the collective of the United States. And then it has an effect on us individually. And we can shift that by moving in out of the sort of fate or the dragon's tail and move toward destiny instead. And we're all a part of that.
Yeah.
Whoever is interacting with the United States.
So Liz, before we actually get started on that, I kind of want people to kind of, understand how you do astrology, because there are many different astrologers out here and stuff. And I feel that you are a very unique one. And something unique that you just said was how, I don't hear too many astrologers say this, but you actually feel the energy and allow yourself to become it in order to be able to decipher. Is that?
Yeah, exactly that. The symbols and where the planets are with the charts, and then the archetypes. So I have a knowledge of the archetypes and a knowledge of the planets and the stars, right? But then I have a feeling the archetypes feel a certain way to me. When I meet a person, even without knowing anything about their chart, they might just start feeling like a Pisces to me. And they may not be born with a Pisces sun, but then it turns out they have a Pisces rising or a Pisces moon. I'm sure you've had those kinds of interactions where you're like, this feels like an occult, whatever. And then you find it later. But so when I'm doing a chart, and mostly I do charts for people, and sometimes I take a look at what I call the celestial weather for people where they're making decisions or planning for events, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
But the bulk of my work is in talking to folks about sort of where they're getting tripped up or playing in a loop of sort of karmic inertia. So in that loop, and then finding a way for them to understand maybe where that is in their chart that gives them that energetic experience in their life today, and how that may have played out in parallel or past lives, depending on how the brain likes to think of it as a past life experience, but my understanding of it is that it's more parallel lives, concurrent, it all is happening concurrently, past, present, and future. So I'm just looking at those sort of the almost a smudge that is coming over from another experience that still wants to be resolved through a lesson, simply through lessons. It's not even good or bad. So I try to talk about like the potential lessons and how we can sort of satisfy them so that we can catapult in the other direction toward destiny, which is a choice in every moment, right? But we can get like bogged down with these negative experiences. And I speak from my own perspective of having like major tower moments of what I thought was my life fell apart in order to shift me over to where I needed to be, right? Where I wanted to be.
Right.
Yeah. And to me, that's all in the stars. We can look at it and then sort of clear some of it up and move forward.
True. Yeah, that's very true. All right. Awesome. So now for people who may not, and I believe you're going to show us a chart and stuff. So for people that that may not fully understand astrology, we'll do our best to try to explain certain things and how we're how you are coming up with what's going on energetically with America and stuff.
So a couple things about the chart of the United States of America is that it's a little bit tricky to choose which time this country was born, right? Which moment in time do we want to freeze? When we do a birth chart for an individual, we're looking at like, do you know the moment that you were born?
Right.
Your mom might know, your auntie might know, or your birth certificate might say it, and then lots of people meet me and then end up texting their mom to try to find out what time they were born. And so that's what we do for an individual, but for a country, it's a little bit tricky. So I did some research and was trying to decide which moment in time to use. And there are a variety. And so if people do some of their own research, they might find that they're not looking at the same chart that I'm going to show.
Okay.
And that is, I think, for me, it's like I want to choose the right thing to look at. And so I had a little bit like, oh, should it be this or this or this? And I was like stuck in analysis for a little bit. And I felt like some of the themes come through similarly, even if you're looking at a different chart. But what I went with is one that most people are looking at. I thought, let's look at that. Let's look at the one most people are looking at. And it's July 4th, 1776 at 5:10 p.m. There are some reasons for why. Like people have done research into sort of the writings or journals that were done. People either who knew the founding fathers or had documented something about them or were trying to match up events to figure out the timing. So I went with 5:10.
Yeah.
Because it seemed a good a time as any. And as I started to look at it, it really felt like I mentioned about the feelings I had of being disgusted by what was in there, was like, okay, this actually does match up with my experience of what it's like to try to be a human in integrity and live in this country. And we can get into that. But yeah, so if you do your own research, you may find it looks different, but perhaps I will just show some examples here. So the chart, okay. This is how I like to look at a chart with a whole bunch of information in it. We're seeing the planets, we're seeing some fixed stars, and then just for the folks who maybe aren't familiar with looking at a birth chart, on the outside of the wheel, we have the zodiacs. Here's Libra. This is in the order based on the moment. Here is the moment right here, 5:10 p.m. Sagittarius is then the rising sign for the United States of America. There are some other charts that show different rising signs, but we're using the one that has a Sagittarius rising. So this is the way that I am going to be looking at it, but here's an example if you just Google it of what you would find. So it's pretty similar. Everything's in the same place. I've just added some fixed stars and asteroids that I like to look at when I do chart interpretation. But this is what you'd see, one of the very first entries if you Google it.
Okay.
So just for folks' information. And then back over here to this chart, the green markations on the outside are representing where the planets are right now. So right now, the moon is in Sagittarius. The south node is in Sagittarius. That's what these little markings are over here. They're right now. So when I brought up this chart, which was just a few minutes ago. So in sort of the basics of astrology, what people start to look at right away is this sort of trilogy of the sun, the moon, and the rising sign.
Yeah.
So this chart of the United States, this 4th of July birthday, the United States is a Cancer. Here's the sun. I don't know if you can see my little pointer finger here. Here's the sun in Cancer. It has multiple wide conjunctions. They're not super close, but I felt like with this, actually, I would like to note that there are some rumors about when they decided to sign the Declaration of Independence, and that Ben Franklin was leaning on astrology for advice. And he said that we should wait until, this is just, I don't know if this is true, but he said that we should wait until the moon is out of Capricorn and in Aquarius, and it is in Aquarius. So I thought that was really interesting. And then also Christopher Columbus, I guess, was working in electional astrology to decide when to leave for the New World. So I thought, that's fascinating. That's another chart to maybe look at, is his departure.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like our founding fathers were, I would say they were into what people call like the occult. Like they were into like a lot of this like hidden information. So astrology played a big part. But one thing I wanted to mention that that just came to me that I ended up coming across just through like, random researching years ago, is how they made sure that the monument, the one that has the oh my goodness, can't think of the obelisk, I believe the monument that's in Washington. Well,
Washington
apparently, like,
Monument?
I
think it's called the Washington Monument.
Is that what it's called? Okay, so apparently it's supposed to be they wanted to align it with Virgo. And I thought that was interesting how they were trying to align the United States with the constellation of Virgo. I don't know if you came across that too as well. So
I didn't see that, but that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Why do you think they would choose Virgo?
Well, I mean, if they were really into like, I would say a lot of like Egyptian mystery school kind of information, then to me, I feel like Virgo has a lot to do with Isis, with the goddess Isis. So, because when you get into Egyptian astrology, you find out that Isis represents also the Virgo constellation as well as Leo. So that's just my
yeah.
This is my guess. I mean, because they were like I said, they were really into astrology and Egyptian and Greek kind of mystery school information, because the Greeks really adapt a lot of Egyptian information and stuff like that too as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of part of it, and amongst other things. So
yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
What I was thinking is that, so this is my belief about, or my sort of inner knowingness about what I did when I incarnated, and my experience is that everyone did this. This is not specific to me. Is that I picked things the way they are for a reason, right? I picked the planets in certain positions for a reason because I wanted to be able to use that energy for learning lessons or having talents or whatever the case may be. And if I'm taking those stories about these founding fathers, then I'm thinking they knew it too, right? And they picked these things in alignment for a certain reason. So looking at this chart, and I'm seeing the sun here next to a fixed star, Sirius, by the way, And then we have Jupiter. So all this energy is being pulled into the sun, being pulled into sort of the core of what the United States is. We're bringing in the energy of Jupiter also, bringing in the energy of Venus, and we're bringing in a little wider conjunction here, but the energy of Mars. So even though Mars is far away from the sun, to me, it is all of this close together that is linking the energy. And I think we're pulling all of that energy in, including here we have Mercury in retrograde, actually, but in Cancer as well, pretty close to that sun. 11-degree orb. That's wider than a lot of astrologers would say, but I think most astrologers would also agree that the energy does get pulled in. And so it looks like a deliberate use of a variety of planetary energy for this country.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, with so many planets in Cancer here, this is a lot of the Cancer vibe. So we've got a Cancer sun for the United States of America. We have an Aquarius moon over here in the 3rd house, just barely. And we have a Sagittarius rising with one of the fixed stars from the Draco constellation actually almost conjunct also, which I think is pretty interesting as well. But that might even be a whole separate videos talking about the star alignments and potential star seed type information.
You know what's kind of interesting, just to kind of the fact that the Draco star constellation is where the rising sign is. It's interesting because the word America means land of the serpent. So
that is
very interesting. Yeah.
That is interesting. I like that. Okay, so let's see. Let's think about, now we know the basics of kind of the game piece that is the United States of America. When I'm talking to individuals about these sort of things, the sun, moon, and rising, I'm telling you, this is sort of like what you chose as your avatar to do the game of life. So this is what we have for the United States, for sort of the game piece that is the United States. We have explorer vibes over here with Sagittarius rising. Sagittarius can also be like quite cavalier, rude even, can be like, this is what I believe, I don't give a fuck, like this is who I am, like take it or leave it. And I'm not so much concerned about in this vibe, when I'm in this vibe, I'm not so much concerned about the impact that I'm having, right? It's all about like exploring, expanding. It's Jupiter, it's philosophy and what's over there, and let's go find it, without really paying attention to what would happen as a result. The Aquarian moon to me feels a lot like an interest, like a humanitarian interest, that really at the heart of this country is a desire to take care of sort of what's in the neighborhood, in the 3rd house, taking care of each other, taking care of the village, and really being concerned more from a big picture perspective, instead of being stuck in, I only care about me and my kingdom. It's really more expansive than that. And it goes beyond what was my individual view of what I thought was right. So that's in us, but I think we've gotten stuck into the nation's sort of karmic inertia loop around something that comes up when we start talking about Pluto. So I start to get excited about someone's chart when we dig into, where is Pluto? Where is the south node of the moon? What is some of this smudgy stuff that I was referring to earlier, the karmic smudges that have rubbed off on us that are keeping us in this loop? So for me, the United States is looping in the 2nd house territory, which is, can be, what I'm really feeling here is like this sense of ownership. And so we're combining like this exploring, right, with owning. And I think it's pretty clear about how that went down in the United States when folks arrived and began to really want to make this land property. Second house is an area of property, right? And like, and I own this. But then also experiences of poverty and maybe not having enough, because a part of the exploration could have been going through times of being hungry because there literally wasn't food or the food spoiled on the ship. You arrive in new land, but you don't know what food is safe to eat, and you have to learn all of that. And sometimes you're learning the hard way, right? By eating poisonous berries or whatever the thing is. So you're literally going through like being hungry and not having enough, and then getting to the point where you begin to accumulate. Well, when Pluto is in the second house, it is a bottomless pit. It is not going to be satisfied easily because if it is stuck in this thing of like, I need to get more. I have a child who has Pluto in the second house. He is a hoarder and he doesn't share very well. He's always kind of worried that someone's going to take his food. And then what's interesting is that people do that to him because he's putting it out there. He's worried about it. And there's, you know, a Leo rising in my life who enjoys making everything so funny and like he's pretending like he's going to take the food. But then my second house Pluto kid is having the experience of feeling lack or fear of lack. And so here we have a lot of fear of lack. And you may notice not too far away, we have the South Node also in the second house. So we're picking up more of that energy around we need to make sure that we have enough. Not only do we need to make sure that we have enough, we believe that we don't. Collectively, we believe that there's not enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So adding to that, we have Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto is a really slow moving planet. It hangs out in one sign for a while, depending on the retrograde cycle could be there for about 12 years. I think sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it's more. But the United States is born with this Pluto in Capricorn, and it's about to be coming back. Pluto will be at 27 degrees Capricorn, as you know, Lucius, in 2022. And it's having, so the United States is having its Pluto return. If you are into astrology, you probably know about the Saturn return, the personal Saturn return that happens at about 29 and then happens again and again. So it's about every 30 years-ish. And so depending on your lifespan, you may have 3 Saturn returns. But as individuals, the way that we're living these human bodies these days, we don't get to have a Pluto return, but our country is having a Pluto return.
Right.
So that to me feels like significant shift. And there's plenty of other celestial weather that's contributing to the pressure of these times to facilitate that shift. Right? Things have to kind of fall apart in order for that to happen. But a word on Pluto and Capricorn in general, or multiple words, is the sort of compulsive need to control. So we have for the United States with this Pluto placement, a compulsive need to control outcomes and ownership. And it's just like thinking about the way that the country built its wealth. It's just really like you can see it. And we maybe don't need to get into too much of the historical narrative because that's not the place for this conversation. But what is happening right now for me, my experience of what's happening around the country is a reckoning with what has taken place. And folks actually looking at it and being like, yeah, whoa, like really experiencing and feeling the impact of what has gone on for us as a collective, how we've used the land and the people in a way that is not in alignment with our humanitarian heart with that Aquarius moon. So
wow, that's really and that's something that I'm glad that you said that, because I feel that the origin of what this country was destined, I mean, with that Aquarius moon lets me know that somewhere along the lines, and this could be like a totally different video too, somewhere along the lines, something happened that caused some kind of a shift to almost be out of alignment, right? When you say like we kind of went out of alignment, or is
I
it
would
pretty
say
much?
I would say that we're definitely over here in this chart. This is the dragon's tail. This is where the karmic inertia looping happens, over in this area. And the destiny where we want to be headed is over here at 6 degrees Leo, which is we'll talk about that in a moment, but you're not necessarily out of alignment if you're stuck in a karmic loop. Not really, because that is as much yours as your destiny is. It's just, what do you want to do? Do you want to be in your fate, or do you want to be in your destiny? And everyone has the right to live their destiny.
Liz, have you ever read this book called Star Signs? I'm trying to remember this woman's, I want to say, what's her name? Linda Goodman? She wrote this book called Star Signs back in I want to say like the 60s. And she was an amazing astrologer. But anyway, she talked about how America was serving out like the karmic debt that happened during the time of Atlantis. And the interesting thing is that the fact that having that Aquarius moon, you know, the Aquarius is actually when Atlantis had ended. So the fact to come back around full circle.
Do you mean the previous age of Aquarius?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to come back around full circle and going back into Aquarius, this makes it more interesting, and it also confirms what she wrote back in 1960 about this. So if you haven't read it, I think I don't know, I might have a copy, but anyway, it's an awesome book, and I just wanted just kind of share it real quick, because it's like really like this chart is really on point, like what you're talking about right now. It's amazing.
Yeah, wonderful. I'll check that book out. It sounds like it's right up my alley.
Yeah, it is.
So getting into the destiny. So right now we'll look on this side of the chart where we've got the North Node in Leo and in the 8th house. So where our lessons and where we're getting stuck is in a belief of not having enough, no matter how much we accumulate, right? And then we're moving towards something else. And what we're moving toward is sort of, it's really rather playful. It's like a playful, creative expression. We're able to be the star, but in a way, it's like we can't just be the star. You've got to be better at taking accountability and really getting that humanitarian aspect down, because the humanitarian vibe is coming in with the tail, where to really move out of that, you get the tail right. You get these things right in order to move forward. So ideas about humanitarianism is one thing, but when you're so absorbed with accumulating wealth, you can't get it right. So if we could collectively say, there's more than enough here, right? There's more than enough here, and I'm willing to share. Then we can move forward into a destiny of being shining stars, Leo energy of playfulness, performing, whether you are, you just enjoy to make people laugh, or you play a musical instrument. There are multiple ways that you can share your creative expression. Creation is creating a human life. It's creating a book, writing a book. There's so many ways that we can do that. We can see Donald Trump as an example of a performer. So he is doing the Leo energy, right? He's this absurd character that's getting a lot of attention. Eyes are on him. He's getting a lot of feedback, good and bad. He's doing part of our destiny, but we didn't get fate right. We didn't get that other part right. We can't have a shining, beautiful leader. Even we had Obama looked good and sounded good, but he didn't get it right either. And when we really look at how people are beyond their words and what they look like on the surface, because we want to just be shiny on the surface. We want to try, like the country is trying to do that, trying to live the destiny, but getting sucked back and getting stuck. Why is the only reason to be a celebrity to earn lots of money? Like, that's not really why you're here. You're not really here to share your beautiful, shining experience just to earn cash. Like, it goes beyond that. But we can't get to that pure expression until we go, there's plenty here. I don't need to like make it rich. I don't need to get lucky. There's plenty here, and then I can live my destiny. Part of the way that we can fuel that is by stepping into the nurturing qualities of Cancer. Why would we have all of that energy here? Why would we have this here? Not for no reason. We don't want to be Capricorn. That's not what we want. We want to be nurturing everyone. We want to be healing. We want everyone to have more than enough themselves. We want full cups all around because it's possible. We don't even need a lot of time to go by in order for that to take place. We could have billionaires wake up and just change, just shift. Jeff Bezos, $123 billion. He could wake up one day and go, I'm giving away $122 billion. This is absurd. I'm just giving it to the people. And then someone else might do the same. It's possible anyone could do something crazy. It's 2020, anything could happen. 2020,
you know what?
so strange.
That's very interesting you say that, because I feel like someone who is kind of taking that initiative, and he's not even a billionaire, is Ocho Cinco, who's also known as Chad Johnson, football player. He had put up on his Twitter like a couple of days ago that on July 1st, he had over $250,000 that he was just giving away to people on Cash App, just randomly picking people, helping them out. Cause like, that the little stimulus check that, little $1,200 that got sent out to everyone, is just not enough to make up for 3 months of not being able to produce, so to have more people to do that.
We've had the thing about the coronavirus situation in the pandemic is that it's producing an energetic experience for the masses that has already been taking place for many people. So the dilemma of what do we do about childcare, for instance, that this is big for me lately, is the schools closed down. So suddenly now I'm with my kids all the time and I'm trying to make money, and it's really challenging. But the question of who's taking care of the kids has been relevant this entire time. It's been a question this entire time. The people who are working at the grocery store making a wage that we know is likely not sufficient for having a thriving lifestyle and all of their needs met.
Right.
That's been the thing all along. And people have been having trouble getting... people have been underemployed and sort of underpaid, underbenefited for ages. It's just that we're finally really feeling it collectively with the help of this pandemic. It's been a nice assist to help us see how we're really not taking care of people.
True.
The government isn't doing it. Ocho Cinco is doing it, and anyone can help someone.
Right.
It's like what we want to do too. It's a part of the problem with the way that we are perpetuating the karmic cycle over here in the lower part of the chart as a collective, but individuals contributing to the collective, right? So when I feel like I don't have enough, I'm out of that mode where I know that I can help, but I always know that I can help. Deep down, my soul understands that I could always help in some way. Even if my bank account is empty, I have something. I have a hand to hold if someone's falling, pulling them up. I have food or whatever the case may be. But when we're stuck in this karmic loop, we're not able to see what we have to share. So really feeling like share what we do have.
And that's why I did that this one video blog on just, you know, why is it that we lack community, that we need to be more communal, because with all that energy being in Cancer and it representing like nurturing and stuff, it sounds like more of a matriarchal mindset would need to take more into play within this country, because when I look into the, you know, records of what has taken place on this planet and certain advanced civilizations, they all were up under a matriarchal mindset, which is why they didn't have to worry about wars and have to worry about someone lacking anything, because everyone was communal. You know, if someone had to work or do things, you know, there was someone in the community that was helping, assisting, watching the kids and doing all these things, to where, you know, it was a more harmonious, like peaceful society, which I feel that that's really what America needs to wake up more to, especially with all the energy being right there in Cancer. That's just a sign for me, like, yeah, like a matriarchal society and going back to that community mindset. We need to stop depending on people and start just depending on the people around us. You know, or not depend on the people around us, but work with the people around us. You know what I mean? Like, work together as a team, more so than anything.
Yeah, and sharing resources is in the destiny as well. So right here in the 8th house, that's an area that is, to me, really speaking to like community property and community resources that can be shared, and actually getting strength from togetherness, or it's like a weave, you know, it's like this stronger weave when we come together, not enmeshment in a codependent way, but codependency gets a bad name. The thing is, since we're all connected, we really are dependent on each other to some extent. If you're in pain, I am also in pain. It's there. Now, that doesn't mean that I caused it, but if you are having this pain experience that's in this greater web in which we are all connected, it's mine too, right? This is why there's just some cleanup that needs to be done around the things that are hurting the people, particularly within our nation, but even as we move outward as Americans. So the way that we're treating each other within the country is one thing, but the way that we treat people outside of the country still applies as well. If we are continuing to cause harm for financial gain, we will not live our destiny. Capitalism will not allow the matriarchy to thrive. Absolutely not. Capitalism is profit.
Mm-hmm.
Matriarchy is taking care of everything alive.
Mm-hmm.
That's
true.
Right? Like, that is not the same thing. As people have been making decisions, the folks in position of power, who have been, for the most part, as a part of this chart anyway, from July 4th, 1776 on in this land, the people in positions of power have been white men who've been at the helm in terms of building the economy of this nation. And that was the priority. And I can understand, we want to give that a shot and see how it works. Well, now we know it does. So nice, nice experiment.
Right.
We're done.
Yeah.
We're done.
Absolutely.
And once we have been accountable and taken responsibility for the karmic lessons, we can stop living in karma. We can get out of that. Karma is actually, it's the old paradigm. We're moving somewhere else, but without taking accountability in some way, and then forgiving yourself and forgiving anyone else, because there's stuff that, we don't feel good about that happened in our past, either in this incarnation or another. But taking accountability and offering forgiveness is freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. That's facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is really good. Because definitely, this has, I believe is bringing even a greater awakening, you know, in this time frame that we're in right now. And also is allowing people to even be creative to create new things. And that's what I like to encourage people to do, is to, you know, like create something new, you know, that's going to better our society and be helpful. You know, I remember, you know, back when I had my awakening in 2012 and over the years, that was something that I was kind of like seeing, was just how, you know, being of service and the arts, how it was going to play a major role in this whole transitioning of coming out of the old way of doing things into this new way of doing things and stuff. And so it's pretty amazing to actually not only feel that intuitively, but then also see it on a, you know, even on a scientific level when it comes to astrology, and seeing how the energy of the planets, you know, is playing out here on this land. So this is really good.
Just
Yeah.
remember, when you're telling people, they just have to take responsibility first before
Yeah.
they create. And it's like some victim stories are already popping up. I don't know where this is coming from, but victim stories around like things that you thought, not you, like you, things that things that we thought were outside of our control that sort of ruined things for us. Like, I'll just share, I was financially ruined at one point in the past decade. So I was living life like I thought, you know, I thought everything was kind of going along fine. I wasn't happy, but I didn't think that was an option anyway. And I was financially ruined. And that felt like I was a victim of a particular person. And then I felt like I was a victim of a particular activity that is destructive. And then I felt like these things were happening to me, but they were really, it was really like the most beautiful fucked up gift I could have ever received. It was like a correction, and I wanted it. I wanted it because I wanted the lessons, and I still hadn't learned them. It had to get harder and harder for me in order to really have that shift me significantly. And
Yeah.
I got bumped out of the karmic loop. The record that I was playing, I did end up getting bumped out of that only because I had the experience where I really was like, I see it. I see it. Like, I get it. I see the lesson. I see where I could have actually kept myself out of that mess if I had been paying attention. And even if you can't find like the specific thing where you could have made a different choice, as long as you can begin to understand that the things that happened to you were also for you, and that get out of the thing where like, yeah, but if that hadn't happened, if she hadn't done that, or if the Democrats weren't like this, or the Republicans weren't like that, then things would be better. It's like, it's time to be asking more from political leaders and people that we elect into these offices.
Yes.
Like you, and thinking about voting. So I've been all over the map with like voting or not voting in terms of whether or not it is useful for me. But I think it is really relevant to the United States. And this is why. So with the MC being here, just what degree is it at? 1 degree Libra. We're at 1 degree Libra. And then over here, how many planets do we have, planets and stars, in the 7th house of partnership, which is could also be considered the 7th house of marriage or the 7th house of enemies. So this feels to me like really important and specific to the two-party system. Now,
wow.
I'm not sure how I want to phrase this. Because I don't want people to get so triggered that they can't hear the message. But
you know what?
Just
say it.
So Libra is two-faced. Now Libra's like to think that Gemini is the only one that's two-faced, and we know that that's not true. Libra is also two-faced.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Libra's always seeing two sides to the story. It's one of their superpowers. And it's also an Achilles heel type thing as well, right? Because it can hold them back, from making a decision. It can hold them, in my opinion, it can keep them from seeming like they're in integrity. It feels to me like sometimes Libra is out of integrity because of this duality. But this is really relevant to us in this experience. What I'd like to do as a collective is just to begin to understand that the Democrats and Republicans are the same energy. They're Libra. They can be two different opinions, but they're coming from the same thing. It's the same. They're not on your side. They're not on their own side. They're on two arbitrary sides that we developed as a country, and we've just been continually going back and forth. The Democrats and Republicans switched opinions on enslaving people. They have gone back and forth. The Democrats used to be in charge in the South. Like, guys, hello?
Right.
Hello? No, neither one of these folks is for you or for me.
Right.
To me, it's also like they're doing this Leo expression thing of like playing out a game that is politics in this theater that is the Senate and Congress and the White House. That's theater too. And
yeah, it's like what was that movie? Oh my gosh, Hunger Games.
Yeah.
The Senate, and it's just
So we can ask more of our elected officials, and when you're voting, I'm in a voting phase right now. I'm really into paying attention to who's being elected in my city.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm really focused right now in terms of politics. I'm not satisfied or interested in who is running for president. In fact, I am repulsed, but I appreciate the energy that we're getting right now to create change, but it's disgusting on either side, in my opinion.
I agree, yeah.
Locally, though, when I was voting, I was like watching my hand and watching the pen. And I think actually I can stop screen sharing. I was really connecting to how it was like a contractual agreement. That when I was filling in the circle next to the person's name and then signing my name, so we have the mail-in ballots here in Portland, in Oregon. And I was like, oh, this is really powerful. Like it felt like a cliche to me when I was a kid and people were telling me I should vote, that it's really important. But understanding how anytime you're writing your name, you're signing your name and you're like filling in a form, that you are participating in an agreement, in a contract. And that's powerful. So, nope, I'm not filling in the bubble next to Joe Biden's name. No. And signing my name? Just because he's the lesser evil, that many liberal people in my circle of friends are telling me how I should be voting. And,
right.
I'm not making that agreement with Joe Biden.
Right. Yeah.
Or anyone, unless I've looked into it and I actually really feel good about it.
Right.
So
yeah.
That's my political thing. Things are so political right now, it's hard not to talk about it. But particularly around the 4th of July, the birth of the United States.
Well, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, so true. So, like in conclusion of what we discussed, like what would be a good like advice, or just what is something that in order to get us to where we need to get on the path of destiny, what is your advice on that?
My advice for that is to feel that you're a part of the collective, but really focus internally. So this is internal work. The 4th house, or Cancer, is the realm of like emotional security. And that when we are kids, when we're developing, our parents and whoever's raising us those are the ones that are really sort of setting the tone for what that fourth house emotional security experience is, right?
Yeah.
But if you're watching this, my guess is that you're an adult and those times are over. We are beyond the time of blaming mom and dad. It's great to recognize like, ooh, this is what happened when I was a kid, and like begin to understand, oh, my mom, you know, because really when we think about it, like our parents were just trying to get by as well. And then the way that they were coping, which was informed by their parents and society, et cetera, had a negative effect on you because they were triggered or they were focused on just trying to survive or whatever the thing is. So we get these injuries. So to see like, oh, I'm easily, a lot of times it plays out in romance and in partnership where these things come up and it's hard to see it right away, but it's definitely shit that came to you when you were a kid, where you, the only way that you could get attention and affection for some people, let's say, is if they get sick. You know, when they got sick, their mom would take off work, but otherwise their mom was a workaholic, right? And suddenly you have this pattern as an adult where you don't give yourself love or care. You're working all the time unless you get sick, or like your partner maybe feels that your partner's a workaholic and then only takes time to take care of you if you're injured or sick. And then you're the person that always gets the sickness at the office, right? You're the one who always, just when everything's going fine, you twist your ankle or whatever. But that's how you learn to get love from your environment.
Right.
So being aware of what the thing is, being aware of what the pain is, forgiving whoever hurt you before, hopefully they're taking accountability for what has happened, but we don't get to control that part. We only get to control us. So offering the forgiveness so that we can be free. I don't want to be in chains connected to my mom over some drama from 25 years ago. I'm done with that. So I forgive her and I blessed it and moved on, right? But then to go, now when this comes up for me in my adulthood, to understand emotional security and emotional wellness is my job. Feeling feelings, not avoiding them. Letting tears come, especially during Cancer season. It'll be different when we get into Leo season, but right now, you feel like crying, you better let it out, because if you don't, you will probably end up hurting someone with your words, or if you're a type of person to use physical violence, it's going to come through that way. Or you're going to be oppressing someone else because you think they should be repressing their emotions. Repression, oppression, all of that is done. That is no longer serving anyone. So if you feel like you're holding back and using your feelings as a compass, I feel uncomfortable, like I'm going to burst. Well, let it out somehow. And if you can't cry, maybe you can sing, or make, you know, something that's like second chakra territory. Tears, singing, music playing, writing, orgasms, any sensual, like massage, like get into the flow. We got to start flowing. It's flow time.
Yeah.
It feels like different to me if someone's like more identifying with the feminine or the masculine. I feel like when the masculine begins to step into acknowledging that they have feelings just like the feminine, because the feminine is in the masculine also, right? As the masculine presenting people begin to explore their emotions and own them and really rule that terrain themselves, some of the hysterical feminine will subside, maybe all of it. The emotions are important, but the toxic feminine you can see exhibiting, you see white women like breaking down in tears every time they try to say something important. It's like, I think they're like taking on more than their fair share of emotions. It's like the feminine has absorbed emotions from the masculine because it seemed like the masculine shouldn't have emotions, was one of the tapes that has been playing, at least here and in many places, right? But we stop playing the tape, but the feminine still holds all of this emotion. It's like, I'm going to give a little bit to you, giving it back to you. That's not my responsibility. You get to do that. So the masculine can begin to, the masculine exploration of Cancer territory, I think, is really interesting. A lot of the archetypes for Cancer don't translate very well to the masculine, but there is the feminine in everyone. And then on the feminine side, to really be owning our emotions in a way that is like, wait a minute, is that even mine? Like, why am I upset about this? I'm not okay with police brutality, for example, but me being in tears about police brutality is inappropriate because it hasn't happened to me.
Yeah.
I'm appalled and I want to shift it, and I'm going to take some action to talk to my mayor, etc. But I don't need to be in hysterics about it because that is paralyzing.
Yeah.
So kind of getting Cancer territory right, this axis of Capricorn and Cancer is really relevant for the United States, and it's relevant to the times right now too. So it's the perfect opportunity to be taking accountability while making sure that we're getting like emotional feelings. We're feeling our emotions. We're not running from them, but we're also being honest about what's ours.
Yeah.
That feels like a big key to also all that emotional stuff really unlocks the opportunity and the fuel for creative expression in that Leo destiny. So there's so much that we can use once the juices start flowing, right? To create something that's healing for you and maybe healing for other people by just really being in it. But it's not going to be a comfortable time. I'm not even hardly looking at 2021 because 2020 is so packed that it's like, it reminds me of being pregnant and not being able to see much beyond the due date just because there's so much to do until then, right? You know, because we've got the eclipse and the full moon that's coming up on the 5th, just a couple days from now. And that's really potent. It's the closing of an eclipse season that we just experienced. But we'll have another eclipse season at the end of the year. November 29th, we'll have one. And then December 14th, we'll have another. So that'll be a Sagittarius new moon and eclipse. And then a Gemini full moon, right?
Right.
I think I'm getting that right. So those will be interesting energies to tap into, and it's kind of bookending the year because we started the year in an eclipse season.
Yeah.
And November 10th was an eclipse, not November, excuse me, January 10th, 110 was an eclipse, and that day for me was like wild. This experience in 2020 has just been really potent.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster.
And it's not over yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, that'll wrap it up for today with this video and stuff. And definitely, we got to do another one, to discuss some other things. This is really good. So I want to just say, thank you for taking the time to do this video with me. And also too, when it comes for people that are interested in maybe getting a reading from you, I know you also have product and stuff. So I would definitely make sure that I will leave your Instagram link at the bottom of this video and stuff.
I have an Instagram account, and then also there's booking available through my website, which is just the same name as the Instagram account, which is Alchemy. Yeah, so people can book there or do some shopping.
Yeah.
And thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. And people definitely make sure you guys go check her out because she has amazing product. Matter of fact, I actually use some of her product as well. Been loving the face cream and the oil, especially after shaving and stuff. So I've noticed less razor bumps from me shaving my head just by using the oil. Yeah.
That's exactly what it's for.
Yeah. So it's been working.
I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this video up. And hope you have a blessed day, blessed weekend, and I will be talking to you soon.
All right. Thank you, Lucas.
All right. See ya.